Well, okay then. Welcome back to the Old Guy Shed. We are here again working on our 1978 Suzuki GS550. As you just saw, it's running. It's some pretty darn good news. I'm pretty darn happy with the fact that it actually does run. I went ahead and hooked up the gauges for doing the carburetor sync and spent a little bit of time last weekend working on it and trying to get it adjusted and tweaked in right. Something wasn't quite right. So I'm going to go through today here what I think is happening. You may have heard it a little bit, and if I'll have to mess with that audio of when it ran, I think. But anyways, so yep. I think there's one other thing that we need to do before we synchronize the carburetors. So let me go ahead and we'll pause here. Let me get that set up, and we'll be back in a little bit. All right, then, as you could see, we're still some of these gauges, and this is a Amazon Chinesium special here, I believe. Um, the Pretty hard to adjust these needle valves here. Um, might have been worth it to get one step up of these vacuum gauges. But anyways, so the thing that I've noticed is that I can get by adjusting the carburetor down here, and the adjustment is you put the RPMs at around 1,500. I've been going up to 2,000 just because it gives me a little bit better control of the range, and then you adjust uh, the screws on here for the sliders, the main sliders, and then try to get the vacuum gauges aligned. Well, it is quite the chore. You do one adjustment, and then everything else moves, and then you're coming back and adjusting the idle over here for keeping the RPM about the same, and then going back. When I was doing it last weekend, one of the things that I think I'm going to have to do regardless is to take the carburetor back out and lower the sliders a little bit so that I've got a better range, because what was happening was I couldn't um, reduce the or I couldn't increase the RPM. Uh, uh, no, that was backwards. I couldn't increase the RPM with the main idle screw over here. So I was having a range problem, I think. And I didn't have enough range on the main sliders. But the thing that kind of tweaked me over is that two and three, two and three seemed a little bit different, and couldn't really get them to be even close. Now 1 and 4 I could, but 2 and 3 I couldn't. And then I remembered that the spark plugs and the points over here, that's how they are set up, so that 1 and 4, let me turn on the light here, hopefully that'll help us out a little bit. The 1 and 4 side and the 2 and 3 side. When I first took the motorcycle apart, I looked at these, and it looks pretty clean to me, and I was like, well, heck, I probably won't have to do anything with these. Yeah, not so much. And actually, I had thought about going ahead and replacing this whole thing with a electronic ignition module. They're a little bit expensive, and they take quite a bit of work, because you have to replace this wire that comes up through here and around here, and then gets up to this mess up here with the coils, and that looks like a lot of work. But I think I'm going to take one shot at getting these adjusted. When I just a little bit ago when I took this off, it looks like this 2 and 4 contact points here needs a little work. I wasn't getting a good contact on them, and for both sides, when it was running, I could see some sparks coming out of them. So I think we're at the minimum we're going to have to see if we can burnish those contacts, and then see if we can set the adjustment. This one over here in particular, I don't know if you can see that, but that one looks darker than this one over here. You see how that one's nice brass, especially on the bottom. And this one over here looks a little bit dark, that contact there. Yep. So I think we need to work on our points and this ignition timing before I go farther on the carburetor. So that's what I got going now. Let me go ahead and dig into this a little bit, see if I can, I got the manual open over here, and I'll go through and see if I can figure out if we need to replace anything here, or if we're going to go ahead and just replace the whole darn thing with an electronic module, or if we can get the darn thing to work. So let me pause here, and we'll be back in a little bit. Alrighty then. So I've been looking at this for a while, tried a couple different things on it. One of the things that I did first off was to use some of this 3000 grit paper, sandpaper, to clean up the contacts a little bit. It seemed to help a little bit. And then the other thing I did was, so I adjusted the gap using my feeler gauge. The spec calls for a 0.35, and I tried that, and the spark was happening before the fire. So I went ahead and went back and bumped it up to 40 millimeter. It was, or 0.4 millimeter, before the spec calls for 0.35. So I wanted to see if I could cheat a little bit on that spark gap to get it a little bit closer. Might be able to adjust them out even a little bit more, but I'm not sure how valid that is. You can see the F in there, in the line by the F, if I can get the lighting right. There we go. And then above it, you see that there's a notch in the there's a notch up above it right there. So that F and the notch, the line by the F and the notch up there, should be aligned when you fire, and right now that's where it's at when it fires. To check that out, I used got my multimeter here. It's not the best thing, but setting it up, I couldn't find my other tester light. So this works okay. I need to find my tester light to make it a little bit easier. And what happens is the circuit, this contact actually opens when it goes to fire. So if you're looking at the voltage, in fact right now, so I moved over to 2 and 3. So I've got the positive hooked up here, and then I've got the negative hooked up with just a clamp over here to keep it out of the way. Yeah, so when it goes to fire, the breaker actually, this point actually opens, and then you'll see 12 volts across between the output here and ground. So I can just keep an eye on it on the my digital multimeter. It's not the best thing. So anyway, so I got it this far by adjusting the gap of the points, and then I went ahead and I've adjusted. I got all the room out, and all the adjustment room I've got, and I'm still a little bit short. It would probably be okay. In fact, I might give it another try here on seeing how it runs now. with this adjustment. And but it's pretty obvious I'm going to have to change the points here at the minimum. And I'm still thinking about putting on an electronic unit. I went and looked real quick. The ones they have replaces most of this whole assembly with like a magnetic pickup that goes on the shaft here, and then the wire that goes down and underneath and around and everything else, and then comes up to the condense or the coils up here. There's actually is connections there for that, so you can leave the coils in and then just replace this thing. Of course, it's 150 bucks, but the points, it looks like you can get them on eBay. It's about the best price for about 10 bucks each, so you got to get two of them, so that's 20 bucks. But you never really sure what kind of Chinesium you're going to get there. And I'm thinking I'm going to just go ahead and do the electronic. I don't want to have to be doing this adjustment all the time. It's quite the bear. I don't have a motorcycle stand, so I'm sitting on the floor in the shed trying to hunch over and see inside there to see the mark. So anyways, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I'll order the electronic ignition, I think, and then we'll get that in, and hopefully we'll be able to get that set up pretty easy and get back to tuning up the carburetor. Alrighty then, so I'll go ahead and see about what I want to do with that ignition. I'm really leaning towards that electronic ignition module instead of the points, but I'll figure that out. Probably be a couple weeks once I figure it out and get everything in from the order, and then before we get back out here to work on the old gal some more. I did want to mention that when I do this work on the ignition, since you have to have the key on, I took out the headlamp just so that I wouldn't wear down the battery as much. So I think that's pretty good idea to try to reduce the amount that you're draining the battery, since it's going to be a while before we start it back up. Maybe I won't have to charge it. Maybe I will though. So it's probably in the end we'll see how it works. Anyways, want to say thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Leave me any comments, questions, suggestions down below. Please tell your friends about me, and please subscribe. Everyone, take care and be good.